Okay, my friends, here it is. The video that is going to explain to you exactly how to utilize the natural fertilizers for your upcoming growing season. Because this is probably the number one question that I get from you guys, so I'm going to make a video to clear it all up right now. So I'm going to say some things about it and explain the philosophy, and then I'm going to give you the exact regimen written out for you so that you can just follow it and you will have success, my friends. So the first thing that we have to understand is that we are utilizing biologics and not chemistry. So we are utilizing biology and not the chemistry. Modern farming with chemicals, petroleum-based chemicals, fertilizers like 2020, 16, bloom boosters, any of the stuff that has petroleum-based chemicals in it, that is all farming with chemistry, okay? And that is adding laboratory creations into the soil so that it bypasses the soil food web and goes directly into the plant itself. Very potent stuff, but it destroys and degrades the soil as it is used, and it starves the soil food web of the sustenance that it needs. And so for that reason, it's like an opium or heroin for the plants and for the soil. The more synthetics, the more often you use synthetics, the more you have to use them, and the more volume you have to use because the soil food web dies. So what we are doing with the natural fertilizers is the total opposite. We are creating biological substances that will nourish the soil and the soil food web so that the soil food web can then function at its optimal state and produce everything that the plant needs. Because remember, if you have a thriving diversity and abundance of microorganisms in the soil, they will be able to produce everything that your plant needs. And it won't matter what plant you put into that soil, it will thrive. And so for that reason, we are never going to use any kind of synthetic fertilizers. The Miracle Grow, the Grow More, the Maxi, all that kind of stuff, anything with petroleum-based chemicals in it destroys the soil. So for that reason, we are going to use only biologically made stuff that we make. The second thing that we have to understand is that nature never divides the growth cycle into sprouting and then vegetative and then blooming. And nature never gives different nutrients for those stages of plant growth. That is only in chemistry farming, in the mind of modern man, that we think that we have to divide the plant cycle into its different stages and then add different things at these different times. What nature does, when we look to nature, the original sustainable grower, we see that it sustains by providing a balanced source of nutrition all year round so that whatever the plant needs is available when the plant needs it. It doesn't say, okay, well, now the fruits have started to bud, so now I'm going to pump it full of calcium, or now I'm going to pump it full of phosphorus. Nature doesn't do that. It just provides a well-balanced diet all the time so that the plant can decide for itself what it needs. So we must mimic nature when we look to do the natural systems. So for that reason, we throw out the window NPK. We don't have to worry about the NPK. I spent years growing with NPK in Northern California, and it was so wildly complicated, and we were manipulating every aspect of everything. But nature never does it that way, and we don't have to do it that way either, my friends. So when we're growing in the natural soil, in the full sun, everything is wonderful. We can use the nice biologics. So our goal is to provide a balanced source of nutrition all the time. But in order for that to be accessible by the plants, we must have a thriving community of microorganisms. So here is your fertilizer schedule. Number one is the base fertilizer. We have to understand that there is the difference between a base fertilizer and additional fertilizer. Base fertilizer is what you put into the soil itself, the organic matter, the crop residue, meaning the leftover from the plants, the fruits, all of that goes back into the soil in natural farming, and it decomposes over the fall and winter time. Also manures, cow, chicken, horse manures are the primary ones you want to be using. That goes into the soil. Also, compost can go into the soil. And we apply it in the fall time because that is what nature does. Nature applies it in the fall on top of the soil. Nature never tills it into the soil. And so you can see here, I've written for you, take a screenshot of this because I don't know how to make other graphs on the computer. But you can see here that you apply it in the fall or the very early spring. So if you have to apply it, if you miss the boat and you have to apply it in the early spring, then go for one of the manures or the compost. The crop residue is only for the fall time, and we only put the stuff on top of the soil. We do this one time a year, guys. So in the fall or the early spring, we add it to the top of the soil. And that is going to be our base fertilizer. And so that is really the foundation. That's more important than anything else, what goes in and on top of the soil. So get your base fertilizer right. That's number one. And you only add that one time a year, preferably in the fall. Okay, now that we have the rich organic matter in the soil, on top of the soil actually, as our base fertilizer, now we are going to inoculate the soil with the indigenous microorganisms, which means the local microorganisms that we capture through the leaf mold process. And I will put a link to that video right here, and you can learn how to make it. So we're going to utilize that 5 times at full strength prior to planting. That means no plant roots are in the ground, and we are going to add it 5 times full strength, spaced 1 week apart, and then we're going to wait 3 days at least after the last application to begin planting. So this is the ideal schedule. If you can't do this, if you have to space it 5 days apart, that's okay. If you have to only do 2 applications, that's okay as well. But this is ideal. And with these applications, that's going to get the populations of strong, diverse microorganisms thriving. And those are our heavy lifters by far, guys. That's what we want. We need a diversity and a plethora of microorganisms to suppress diseases and to make the plants more pest resistant. Okay, so we have our base fertilizer, which we applied in the fall time or the very, very early spring. Then we have our microbial solution that we add 5 times full strength prior to planting, meaning no roots are in the ground. Now we're going to plant our plants. And then from there out, we are going to fertilize with the additional fertilizer 1 time every 2 weeks. And if our soil is really depleted, or we're just starting the organic natural fertilizer type farming, then we're going to apply every week. And that is going to look like this. So the additional fertilizer, you're going to apply every 2 weeks, and you're going to apply this, the JDOM liquid fertilizer called the JLF. And the first one, the most important one, is the wild grass, the alfalfa and the hay type, any of the wild grasses. Watch my video on how to make the JDOM wild grass fertilizer, but also the what I call everything fertilizer, or the crop residue fertilizer, which I will put a link to at the end of this video. So those are the primary ones, okay? If you're only going to make one, do the everything, the crop residue fertilizer, and apply that 1 to 20. Now, if that's all the time and the space that you had, then that's okay. That will be sufficient to still get good results. But if you want to go a step further, I suggest you brew the fish fertilizer, which I made a video about, and you will apply that at the same time at 1 to 100 ratio. And then you will apply, every time you fertilize, you will apply a diluted JDOM microbial solution. The same stuff that we applied 5 times prior to planting, except the difference is this time we're going to dilute it 1 to 20. You see? So every 2 weeks, we're going to apply a JDOM liquid fertilizer of choice, a fish fertilizer, and the JDOM microbial solution. Now, that is enough for the beginner. So, but if you want to go further into it, which this is more advanced or intermediate, then we're going to start using things like the wood ash fertilizer, the eggshell calcium fertilizer, and the manure fertilizer. There's a whole number of different ones. Other types of teas and stuff, but that's beyond you don't need to do that as the beginner. So check this out, take a screenshot of it, and you apply this as a soil drench, okay? So when you're just starting out and stuff, just stay off the leaves. And between these 3 things, you have your fertilizer regimen now, guys. You are going to do absolutely fine. We don't have to overcomplicate it. We don't have to dissect it into N, P, and K and growth versus bloom cycle. Just apply this stuff every 2 weeks or every 1 week if your soil is poor, and you will have fantastic results, my friends. So there you go, my friends. If you feel like you gained something from the video, give it a thumbs up and share the video with anyone that needs the knowledge. Share it to your Facebook groups and all that stuff. And also check out the Garden Like a Viking Instagram account, where I'm now doing reels and stuff all the time of little short things that I don't want to make a full video about. Also YouTube shorts I'm making, so check all that stuff out. Check out the links in the description. There's all kinds of good stuff you guys can get. Helps the channel out a bit too. I will direct you to any number of the videos on this screen if you want to learn more about brewing the homemade fertilizers and enriching the soil. So I will see you next time, my friends.